Hey guys, Cam from Team ChainBlock here, and today I'm back at you again with a new deck profile, and it's a deck profile that I've actually been testing for a few weeks now. Waiting imminently for Runick Volcanic to come out, and I'm testing the waters with Runick Volcanic, as you can see here. Now, I didn't get a chance to test it actually this week at Locals because Locals was only about 4 or 5 people. Not ideal for trying to test a brand new deck, but we move on anyway. But before we get into the deck profile, just make sure you check out Kong's Cards, proud sponsors of the channel, and use ChainBlock 5 for 5% discount on any single stuff. Kind of snag yourself a nice discount, especially leading into Mega Tin season. So great reprints in those tins. But without further ado, we get straight into the deck profile. So beginning with the Volcanic engine, we go with 3 Volcanic Shell. Pretty standard, you know, being able to recycle itself and constantly give yourself a discard fodder for the runic spells. It's quite nice. So you always have cannon fodder and easily recyclable with the new cards as well. 3 Volcanic Rimfire. This card is crazy. I've considered it a few times, only playing it at 2. Even when I first read it, I said a 1, maybe a 2 of. But after a couple of reads over it, like the fact that you can use the effect multiple times to resolve both effects is very nice. Being able to cycle through your new volcanic accelerators and stuff is just, you can't put a price on that for a deck like this. And also turns out a lovely FTK, which is quite nice. Play 3 Volcanic Scattershot. You've probably come to recognise this card a lot lately, especially when Runic Sprite, Lifelink Sprite, and other Sprite variants all can summon it off the Gigantic and then link it off and burn for a few bits of extra damage and time. But in this deck, you also, if you read it, you can actually send it to the graveyard off of a Blaze Accelerator card, and it just becomes a Raigeki, which is nice and handy, especially when you get like some of the power cards out, and this deck can easily OTK if you choose not to go with the Runic cards. So pretty self-explanatory for a Scattershot, nice way to clear a board. And then continuing on then with 3 Volcanic Trooper. Now this feels like something that Volcanics really needed. Being able to just search like their whole engine is very nice, and then being able to discard a card and summon a token to your opponent's field. The token doesn't really matter too much. It's part of the FTK, obviously, but you don't really like summoning the token. Isn't really the big effect here. It's to be able to discard any kind of volcanic card. It gives you kind of more fodder than to play with for the rest of the game, and gives you a bit more longevity as well when you're playing. And then we play 3 Volcanic Rocket, just a generic searcher for the accelerator. The fact that it still searches the new Blaze Accelerator is very nice, along with this one too. So you actually have like multiple different ways to get into your new Blaze Accelerator, which kind of makes the deck function now. And then you play the 1 Volcanic Emperor. I do see a lot of people playing this at maybe 2. I don't personally think it's necessary. Playing it at 1 is just fine because you don't really want to see it in your opening hand. And kind of being able to dump it off of like most of the engine is just kind of turns the engine on itself anyway, so you don't really need to open it. So that's all for the monsters in the Volcanic lineup. Next we are going over to the spells, and that will be the 2 Blaze Accelerator, the new Volcanic one, and then the standard Blaze Accelerator. We only play this one because we have to, so don't mind that one. That one's garbage. But these 2 are beautiful cards. Not hard once per turn on either of its effects is crazy, and the fact that you can just recycle the old one out to get a new one on the field with the Rimfire is nuts. Gives you an extra special summon, and you get to send one to graveyard, level 1 to graveyard to pop a card in your opponent's field, which is great when you do start putting tokens and stuff onto their field because you're just burning for a little bit of extra damage. And then we play the 3 Fire Rejection. Fire Rejection is also a new great card that once again summons a token to your opponent's side of the field. Does the exact same thing. If it's destroyed, they get burned for 5, and it sends any pyro card from the deck to the graveyard to resolve its effect. You can also inflict damage to your opponent equal to the level of the monster times 100, but you typically wouldn't use that effect. You typically summon the token to your opponent's field to resolve the FTK. Play 1 Volcanic Emission, 1 Volcanic Inferno, and then 2 of the Blaze Accelerator Reload. Inferno, it's a negate, and then burn for 5, which is quite nice. Volcanic Emission, it's essential for the FDK, burns for half the attack points of a Pyro monster on field. And then the Blaze Accelerator Reload, you don't really activate this one. You can off the Rimfire if you're out of resources, if you're desperate. But typically you just send this to the graveyard off something, and then you get a nice foolish burial out of it. And that's all for the Volcanic cards. Now we're getting into the Runic package. Most of it was pretty standard Runic package. We played the 2 Fountain. Hitting it to 2 didn't make a difference. We didn't play 3 anyway. 3 Runic Tip, 3 Freezing Curses, 3 Flash and Flyer, and 3 Runic Slumber. First thing you might notice off the bat is that there's no Runic Destruction here. Personally, I don't see a point for it in the main deck. If we're going for an FDK, then we don't really need it. We can always just side it in game 2 and game 3 if we really find a need for it. But you don't want to clunk up the deck with too many Runic spells, because you don't want to see too little of your Volcanic Engine as well. So I just thought the best way to do it was just cut out the Runic Destructions completely. And in testing, seems to be working quite well for me. So we'll see where it goes. And then a small little package here. We do the 1 Inari Fire and Spiritual Art. I'm not going to try to pronounce that. And this is essential for the FDK basically. So being able to summon this from the deck and then link it off and search this basically, and then you can tribute your Volcanic Emperor, which you typically have on the field, to burn for 3/1, which is typically enough for a game then. And then we play the 1 Reason, 1 Monster Gate. I don't actually play these for their summons, which is it's quite handy to have them anyway, but I actually play them more for the reason to dump as many Runic spells to the graveyard as possible, so I don't need to open multiple Runic spells to be able to get the engine going. So it just turns my Fountain on from the get-go. So that's pretty self-explanatory in my opinion. So that's it for the main deck. 45, I believe. I think so. But getting into the extra deck. There's a couple of little bits and pieces that I'll have to explain after I go into the side deck, but it's pretty standard. 2 Hugin. Went from 3 to 2 because we got the new Sleipnir card. I haven't gone into this one much lately. But from reading it, it seems pretty good. It's much better than the rest of the fusions are anyway. So these 2 are the main ones. You still play Gary because he's a lad and he recycles our beautiful Fountain. Fricky, still haven't read this one yet. Haven't gone into it, probably won't go into it, won't need it. 1 Moonin. He was the Time Wing card, but we're playing Volcanic in the deck, so probably won't need him very much anyway. Now we go Elder Entity Intis. This is one of the cards I'll actually throw off to the side here, and I'll explain it once I get into the extra deck. Sorry, side deck. Pertapant Dracos Stapelia. So to explain this one, I'm supposed to be playing Sprite Sprint and 1 Trellum Merly, which makes this off it, but I haven't got a Sprite Sprint yet, so this is in the deck. Just know this is only in the deck because of those 2 cards. So when I do get them, they will be going into the deck, and there's a couple of cards that you can cut. Personally, I probably just cut the Reasoning and the Monster Gate for the Merly if need be. You'd cut the 2 of them because it's 45, so there's no point of having just one of them. So yeah, that's to explain this one. And then into the Link monsters, we play Appaloosa. We never really make it, but there are some circumstances where we actually do have 4 monsters on the board, so we can actually make the Appaloosa, and it's quite handy to have. Donner. This is the one that I'm replacing with Sprite Sprint. I just thought he'd be a good stand-in because he's still quite good regardless, and it's very easy to get 2 different types on the field in this deck. Now for the 2 essential Link monsters, I think. Hita the Fire Charmer and Relinquished Anima. So basically, as long as you have an access to a Link 1, which you typically do with Rimfire or the Volcanic Shell, you can make an Anima. And as long as you have another fire card in the field, you can send the Anima and whatever Volcanic card you have to the graveyard and summon out the Inari Fire from the deck. and then you'd use that and any other card then to link into Hita, and Hita will search for the Charmer trap cards. So that's how it enables the FTK. So that's why they're so essential for the FTK. Lingeribo, in case they get Ibly locked. It doesn't make too much of a difference. It's because you don't really use that extra slot too much, only for really the Runic cards, but you don't really need to go into them. So it's just good protection for yourself that you run the Lingeribo. And then one Herald of Arclight, which I'm going to be explaining with the Elder Entity in this. So that's it for the extra deck. So I'll explain these two now in a second. For the side deck, we play one Volcanic Queen, searchable Kaiju, and it burns for a K if they can't tribute anything, so it's quite nice. 3 Ash Blossom, quite nice to side in. If we're going for an FTK, there's no need to main it, but it's always good to have a backup plan if you can't get the FTK off and you're not feeling too confident. You can side it in games 2 and 3, and there's always a spot for Ash Blossom. And now for these two, this is where these come in. I played 3 copies of Ultimate Slayer to go with these, and I'm playing the Ultimate Slayer just because I think it's a really stepped on card. Most people don't get a chance to use this to its full potential because extra space in most decks now is just so tight. So being able to use this to its fullest potential and have one of like every type of card you could possibly play in the extra, it's just a very handy slot that I'd like to be able to use, you know. Now for back row removal, I played the 2 Ruin Destruction, like I said, 1 Harpy Feather Duster, and 2 Evenly Matched. I think 5 cards is perfect for back row removal. Evenly Matched acts as like both front and back row removal, so that comes in quite handy. And also outs Labyrinth quite well. You can't get got by Eradicator with this. That still haunts me that Eradicator is still roaming. Harpy Feather Duster, simple back row removal, and then the Ruin Destruction. Like I said, no need to main deck it, but it's always good to have in the side because you could never have too much back row removal really. And then the last card is 3D Barrier. Mixed match rarities because I can't find my third one. Yeah, D Barrier is just pretty standard card. I'm only playing it really for branded. But once branded kind of falls out of favour at locals, I'll probably just start taking this out and testing the waters with different cards. But yeah, that sums it up pretty much for the deck. Pretty proud of being able to cook this one up. I'll give an update on how I do on Friday, because that's when the next locals is, and it typically is a big enough locals. So if you enjoyed the video, make sure you leave a like. And if there's any changes you think I should make to the deck, feel free to absolutely put them in the comments if you want. Give me some feedback on the deck. Just open to all kinds of criticism really. Any changes you might want to make, anything like that, let me know. Leave a like if you liked the video, and make sure you subscribe. And don't forget to use ChainBlock 5 at a discount of 5% for Kong's cards. And peace.